Hello, I'm horceror. I want to find out what makes every single killer tick. There's one big glaring issue with that though. I play the Nemesis, essentially only the Nemesis. I physically cannot get thousands of hours of experience on every single character. So, I'm going to be interviewing people that do have those thousands of hours. One for every single killer. Welcome to Stars of the Fog. Alright, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Stars of the Fog. My guest today is someone that is very distinguished on their killer, knows plenty about him, big fan, and of course that killer today is going to be one based on the negative thoughts of an entire community, slightly related to the Doctor, not really in power usage, but more in the lore, if that's your type of thing, the Dredge. A little amalgamation of hate, suffering, and teleportation. My guest today is one of the best dredges to ever do it, and I'll just let them introduce themselves. So, who are you? What are you known for? And why the Dredge?
Welcome, people of the internet. I am KMD. It actually doesn't stand for Killer Main Dredge, as some people would like you to know, but I guess now it does. It already didn't have a meaning. I wrote the most extensive guide to the Dredge. I make content about the Dredge. I had the character in my rotation since it came out, and I have them on primary for now over half of my playtime in Dead by Daylight, so about over a year now. I have been playing this game since around Oni's release, and I have a bit of an extensive story how it came to DBD and Dredge.
Yeah, so how'd you get into Dead by Daylight then?
So I fell in love with horror by watching FNAF, unsurprisingly. I mostly watched a Polish content creator, 11, who is like the most popular horror YouTuber in Poland. And he also created SCP The Endurance, which is like a FNAF fan game based on SCP. I got into DBD through a different creator, but I won't mention them because they got into generative AI and I've been watching their DBD videos since around year 2 of the game, but I watched like every single one of them before I actually got into the game. My first time playing DBD was when Curse Legacy patch was available, because I remember specifically I saw the trailer of the chapter when I loaded in the game. My first game was Dwight with Leader on Call Tower against the Huntress. I didn't do a single generator. I walked around the map border scared of the lullaby, and somehow I got out through the hatch. I took a break because I was playing on like an old laptop. I had like average 30 FPS, and I came back when the Binding of Kin was, the mid chapter for the Binding of Kin was out, or when the All Kill PTB was available around that time frame. And initially I was like a really casual player. I was like a 50-50 player. I mained Legion because they reminded me of digital horror, true crime, creepypasta and stuff. And Jeff, because I thought that the whole Jesus Jeff meme was funny, and he was overall just a cool character. Like, he had a nice backstory, like with the dog and being an artist, and they connected to Legion. And as you learn by the lore question later, I am into true crime, so that was some bonus points towards Legion. And after my Legion days, I played like everyone. I was the so-called killer tourist. And when Stranger Things was announced that it was leaving DBD, I didn't have every single DLC yet, so I decided to buy Stranger Things to not miss out on it. And I kind of fell in love with Demogorgon, and I mained Demo until the mid-chapter of Dungeons and Dragons. However, even before I dropped Demo, I felt like I wanted something more out of the killer I wanted to main. I wanted a killer that had a bit more macro in their power, and their power took a bit more thought and skill, Grant, to use. And I really liked the idea of a locker power, and when Dredge came out, I kind of fell in love. It had a cool debate backstory, which, as you'll learn later, I'm really into. Its power was complex, and on release, people were really scared of this character in gameplay. So that was a bonus. And that was a literally perfect killer for me. The issue, though, with playing Dredge in its state, it was like really miserable before 8.2.0 came out with the first buff. And Made for This was pretty miserable to go against. And Made for This originally kind of fucking killed this killer. So Dredge wasn't in my primary, but it was always in my rotation. And I think I was still pretty good at it. And even though the killer was like mid-C tier at the time, but when the buff dropped in 8.2.0 and Made for This was dead in the dirt, and Demo was P100 already, I said goodbye to the dog and went full-time on the Dredge, and now we're here.
Was there more of an initial appeal for the Dredge specifically, or was it just like, I want a little bit more macro, I really like the vibes? Like, what was you said that you didn't really, like, you wanted something more from the Demogorgon, because, like, Demo's fun, sure, but it's like
really easy. Yeah.
What was the initial appeal of Dredge? What was the first thing? Like, this is when I know that Dredge is my guy. Like, what was the initial that?
The thing about me in like character-based games that I'm like character first and ability second. For example, in Overwatch, I play a lot of Bastion because I really like robots. Like when I get into a game that's like based on the character's classes, etc., I look at the character if they are cool first and then look at their power. And with Dredge, it was kind of like a perfect storm because like Dredge is a monster. I like monsters. I look at their backstory. They're into like this based on like a real life event, and also it has like cult elements in it, which I am interested in. As I said like 3 times now. And their power was something I was thinking about before the chapter release. And also I really liked when DBD was scary originally. Now I'm a bit moved on from this part, even though like I still really like when DBD is actually a horror game, even though I think it's more like horror themed than a horror game at the moment. So I would say there isn't like one specific thing that brought me to Dredge. I think the entire package was just the thing that drew me to this character. Even like the only thing that was stopping me from going full time on the character was their power level. That was really disappointing at the time.
And they got buffed, so
yeah, 2 years later, but yeah.
Better late than never, I guess, right?
I mean, listen, our mains got buffed in the same patch, so like
yeah, that is true.
You know, we kind of waited a bit, but you know, your killer was already kind of strong at the time. Not like S.T.A.R., but like
I don't know about strong.
He was solid, like he was consistent, I would say.
Okay, that's fair. That's one of my main complaints about the character actually, is that he's not consistent just because of zombie RNG.
Yeah, but like your M2 was actually like consistent at the time. At Dredge on release, with the lower movement speed while holding the gloaming, you had no way to guarantee that someone is not going to leave a tile. In the current times, it's more likely that you will, if you know what you're doing, you will get the hit on the tile, or at least will lead someone to a worse tile. At the time, you had to gamble, pretty much. There was no guarantee that you can win a tile just by being skilled.
That's unfortunate. You like his character, you like its playstyle, you like its current power level, but what is the number one part you like about Dredge? What is the absolute best thing? It's like, this is what I like the most. Because obviously you're a fan of the killer, you're a fan of how it plays, you're a fan of the lore, you're a fan of A, B, C, D, E. What is the number one thing?
I would say the Remnant. The Remnant is, in my opinion, the most brain-intensive anti-loop in the game to use on both sides. My favorite thing about DBD mostly is interaction and mind gaming, and this power is like mind gaming the power. It's like mind game TM, so it requires, like, the power just requires so much imagination, and I just love using it by, like, getting into people's brains and like poking them a bit from one side and the other side. Is just like really entertaining to be like in a battle of the brains and coming out victorious because like I predicted that I will need to use the input right now because you will be behind this wall in this specific place. Is just really entertaining.
Okay. So your favorite part is the power and its actual interaction and the brain power that you have to use to get down inside a loop.
Yes.
And on the opposite side of things, just because it's an easy follow-up, and what do you dislike the most?
Surprisingly, it's not the lockers. I mean, they're negative, but like they're not like as impactful as people make it out to be. Surprisingly, I don't like the add-ons. Like most of them are parked by like the stronger ones. Like if I look at my tier list that I made for my guide, there's like 6, maybe 7 of them that are like actually viable, debatably, and the rest are like either power crept or just like are kind of useless or don't serve enough of a value to be consistent and be worth a slot. He doesn't have much variety. Like everything is based on teleport or nightfall, and like he has like 2 remnant add-ons, which one of them is like for the entire power. There's like one add-on that is specifically for the remnant, which I really dislike because like I don't like when people prioritize using one teleport over the remnant or the other way around. If you want to play Dredge efficiently, you need to use both of the powers and play with remnant in mind, because I like to say that Dredge has 2.5 powers. Nightfall is the 0.5, and like there's like 3 add-ons that affect remnant gain speed, and there's only one of them that's actually good. Like there's 4 add-ons that affect gain speed, and there's one that percolates all of them, and I don't know, like there's just no variety in my eyes. Everything like just is kind of boring. Like even the strongest add-ons are just kind of number tweaks. In the top 3, there's only one like actually interesting add-on, and I just like don't understand. There's so much you can do with this killer, and there's just like very little variety in this add-on kit. So I would say the add-ons are by far the least liked part of the character. But of course, it's only about the effects. I like the descriptions and I like the amount of lore in the add-ons is actually insane. Like compared to any different killer, they have a lot of lore, I would say.
And with the add-ons, just like they might be a little boring, but do you think they're balanced, overtuned, undertuned, anything like that? And just I'm not super familiar with Dredge add-ons. I know like Malthinker's Skull gets you Nightfall faster. Yeah. That's the one I run. The once in a blue moon I play the Dredge. But just tell me more about the add-ons like in depth, because I'm not familiar. You know, maybe there's something you want to talk about, like, oh, this one specifically, this is my fit. Yeah, and what do you run? What do you run for your add-ons when you use them? Because I assume even though you don't like them too much, you still run them.
So, in my opinion, his best add-on is Automarian Writing. Still, even after the buff, I would say it's the best one because it removes 2 seconds off of the cooldown of your power in daytime, which will allow you to be very aggressive, and it will essentially guarantee that if you use a remnant and get a hit, and the survivor moves to a different tile, you will not have to wait and walk around and try to pressure them from both sides to get your remnant. You will not have to wait for your power to be back to actually use it. You will always have your power back when you hit someone and go to a different tile and the loop begins. So I think this add-on is actually the best one, and I think in this department I'm a bit of a contrarian with like the majority of the community. Because everyone pretty much says that like either Broken Doll or Malthinker's Skull is his best ones. And don't get me wrong, these add-ons are like top 5. Malthinker's Skull, I have a bit of a difficult relationship with this add-on because like a lot of people think it's strong, and I agree, but I think it kind of plays into the obsession of the community with Nightfall, because like building your kit for Nightfall is not the most optimal decision. And if you're going by optimality when ranking add-ons, if you only play for Nightfall, your daytime gameplay is naked, so you won't know how to play Dredge in daytime, ergo you will not know how to use your power, which will just cause you to not use it to its full potential when Nightfall actually comes. And Broken Doll is just like Malthinker's Skull, but instead of gaining more Nightfall, you just get more Nightfall in terms of duration. The other add-on that people really like is Field Recorder, which activates Nightfall at the start and end of the trial and gives exhaustion to people who break your remnant. The second effect is kind of negligible because people won't do that if you're good.
Yeah, and you don't want people to break your remnant anyway. It's like, oh, well, you get rewarded for them outplaying you, I guess. So
yeah. It's still a top 3 add-on because like the most optimal quote-unquote combination is Automarian Writing and either Hades Calendar, which decreases your duration of leaving a locked locker, which will essentially cut their time to pre-run really short, and Field Recorder. But I personally prefer Hades Calendar because it's just more consistent. And again, as I said earlier, I personally am not a fan of building for Nightfall. Field Recorder is this kind of add-on that you will pick if you want to be a bit sweaty and you're willing to gamble, because like it essentially gives you a better chance of securing the early game. But if you run Field Recorder and your early game is kind of rough, like you get a bad map, for example, you will struggle throughout the entire game. That's why I think Hades Calendar is better, because it's more consistent. A different add-on I would like to mention is Lavalier Microphone. People really oversold this add-on. So it works like that. Whenever you use your last token of teleportation, everyone's aura is revealed, and when you're teleporting, as a locker within 6 meters of a survivor will slam its doors, and you will get this information after you use all of your tokens. And with the locker slam, if you're not like on Midwich, which is really dense with lockers and there's lockers like everywhere, so there's no way to get out of the reach of the lockers, this information is too inconsistent to matter. I generally don't understand the appeal of this. Just run Barbecue or like Jacket Compass. You will get more bang of your buck, seriously. Like I personally think it's like the most overrated add-on for this killer. Same with Tilling Blade, which gives you blindness, hemorrhage, and mangled when you hit someone in Nightfall. Blindness is situational, because if someone's on comms, you just don't get the value. And mangled and hemorrhage are cool status effects, but you want them outside of Nightfall to build Nightfall, not during Nightfall, because during Nightfall they're kind of useless to you. So at best you'll just get like 80 seconds of free Nightfall build-up, but that's like really situational if you just injure someone at the end of Nightfall. So I don't get the appeal. However, there's some good ones that I didn't mention that are still pretty weak, like Follower's Scowl, which gives you Killer Instinct when you return to Remnant in daytime. And I think that's the best designed learning add-on in the game at the moment. I think that's the best designed common add-on in the game, because it teaches you, and it's not that strong, but it's like just so good for new players of the character. And also, I think Dredge has the worst add-on design in Dead by Daylight in general, which versus Mortal and Pestle, this specific one is the worst design add-on in my opinion, which makes your camera stay in the same position when you started teleporting, rather than the direction it was placed in when placing down the remnant. Because for the record, when you place down the remnant, your entire position, including the camera, is saved to that remnant. So this actively works against you and like confuses you with your camera position, and also it has no blood point incentive, so it's a meme add-on, but you don't gain anything from using it. You just have a detriment for the entire trial. It genuinely makes no sense to me how they would think this is a good idea. Like, please never run this add-on. Seriously. And the other ones are kind of just number tweaks that don't really do much, personally.
Gotcha.
As I said, 3 Nightfall add-ons, Malfeker Skull are power kept by Malfeker Skull, so that's Burnt Leather, Wooden Plank, and Fallen Shingle. You just don't get the same amount of value. Like, as I said earlier, PS doesn't have, like, many interesting add-ons. And the top ones are mostly number tweaks.
I will say that the Locker Slam add-on, that is, it might not be like meta, it might not be fantastic as an add-on, but every time I see a dredge and that happens to me, I do jump a little bit. So it goes a little bit into your horror game.
I have this gag that I say that, like, when someone runs lavalier microphone, there's a 90% chance they're doing I see a streamer in my lobby, let's get some jumpscare clips. Like, it's just a mostly jumpscare add-on. The most niche use I think I heard from odds is that it can help you with triggering like DMS and perks that trigger off letting off a generator, but it's still just too inconsistent and basically relying on someone getting scared by a sound, which they will hear throughout the entire trial anyway if you just like teleport to them. So again, it's just not every add-on has to be optimal, but like I generally see no appeal that this add-on has in the wide community.
I do get nervous though, that's what I'm saying. It is a little bit more into the horror game aspect of Dead by Daylight, so.
True.
Now, in terms of running things,
yeah,
I'm sure you've heard of these things called perks, I think.
What is that? It's like those purple rectangles or something?
Yeah, something like that. But with the dredge, I do want to hear, like, obviously, are there any perks that you think dredge runs better than any other killer in the game? Like, is there a dredge perk? And just for you in general, what is your favorite perk to run? And what's your favorite perk of all time?
So, in terms of dredge perk TM, dredge has kinda a bit of them, honestly. I think the most dredge TM perk is Gift of Pain, because it's basically a lose-lose situation. If they don't heal, you gain more Nightfall. If they do heal, they get red bar for the first hook. So I think like that's the least talk about perk for dredge, because a lot of people recommend Sloppy Butcher, and this is like Sloppy Butcher, but it needs more effort, but gives you so much more value and directly synergizes your power. If I was going to go for like a chase perk that is the dredge TM and actually is popular, coup de grace, absolutely. It allows you to do insane shit on this character. It allows you to go through such masterful and beautiful remnant hits that you would never hit with basic lunge range. And I just feel like for the first 3 games of not running coup, I feel like I'm losing like most of my games. It's just so nice. I mean, I've been playing a lot of games recently without this perk, but like it just feels so nice. In terms of other perks that are really solid on Dredge, Rapid Brutality. Since you teleport to the remnant, you do not gain Bloodlust because teleport to the remnant resets Bloodlust. So it's just a flat buff for hitting M1s. If you're playing Dredge for Bloodlust, most likely you're going to lose that chase or like lose a generator during that chase. So yeah, this is a flat buff. Pretty unexpected guest to this party. Dark Arrogance.
Okay.
I want you to guess why Dark Arrogance is good on this character.
Vaulting?
Not really vaulting specifically, but the downside is non-existent, because Dredge pretty much never gets stunned. That's why I never understand when people bring stun perks. If you use the Remnant correctly, you will get stunned only when you go for a so-called short swing, which is like, you know, the thing that your hitbox is longer at the end of the animation, so if you swing into a pallet, there's a chance you get a hit. So literally, you never get stunned on this character if you're playing it properly, so you just get a flat 25% buff to vault speed. And recently I got this like crazy clip on Eerie when I was chasing an Ada in Shack. She vaulted a window, I vaulted, showed my red stain around the corner, went back to the window, she was staring at the doorway I was quote-unquote supposed to be going through. I vaulted back into her, she turned around after 1 second of me vaulting, and like she was on the floor already. Like this perk is so funny. It's like any optimal, but it's like so fun. In terms of information, people really recommend Friends to the End because of the insta down, but honestly, with the amount of like time between you going from one place to another in terms of like exiting a locker and teleporting to it. I use it for the info mostly, not for the insta-down. And this introduces the best info perk on the dredge, in my opinion, which is Jagged Compass. You don't have to use a Scorch to use Jagged Compass, but it synergizes with Gifts of Pain and shows you the most progress generator in the trial. So you get shown exactly when you need to be, and possibly allows you to save a generator from popping. A lot of people also recommend Face the Darkness because you're undetectable for the trial. That's fine. It's just not my perk. I don't really like it. Devour, if you just bring a full totem defense build with Thrill, Dominance, and Undying, you're going to 99% of the time win the game because it's so hard to defend totems against Dredge, honestly. If they don't roll the perfect dice and cleanse your like Devour on the third totem break because Undying and all, it's GG. Noxus Calling is surprisingly... Dredge's teleport has weird coding when it comes to perks because some perks activate when you finish. Like with Devour, for example, you only technically get outside of the range when your teleport ends. So you don't get... If someone unhooks while you're teleporting, you don't get a token. And with batteries included, if you teleport through a generator that's finished, you don't get the haste. But like with Nurse's Calling, the aura actively procs while you're teleporting through healing survivors. So if you're within 24 meters of a survivor that's healing, while you're teleporting, like during the teleport, you can see them, which is crazy to me, how this perk just casually breaks the code rules of perk code on this killer.
Breaking something on a killer? That's crazy. Who would ever thought that would happen in this game?
Whoa, Dead by Daylight! Another perk I like to run is Languid Touch because
I love Languid.
At the end of the day, you're an M1 killer. You have to play the tiles, even though you don't really play as any different killer, you still need to play the tiles like that. And if you can stop someone from lifing away casually, this perk is a godsend. And there's also 2 more perks. But I think I will save them when you come around to techs. Even though Dredge doesn't really have any techs, there's like, by definition, techniques you can do on this character that synergize with other perks. So I'm gonna save it for later.
All right. I'm gonna go off of the little, us talking about your killer breaking the code of itself with Nurse's Calling specifically, but I want to go into things that, you know, maybe aren't super intended for the killer, which is going to be, of course, bugs. So does Dredge have any of these bugs that someone that is outside looking in might not know at first glance, or anything that you experience that isn't like, hey, that shouldn't be in the game? What's that going on? Like, what's going on with the Dredge? Like, are there any bugs? Is there anything afflicting him, and do any of them like have major negative connotations?
See, Dredge's kit is not prone to being bugged because it's not really a that intense killer as other killers like Wesker, who can like 360 no scope, like jump around the map because it's a bug or something. But like you have some that are just like so odd. Like some even, I don't even know if they're still in the game, but I think I would mention just in case if they are. Teleporting sometimes just crashes the game of a survivor. I don't know if it was a one patch thing, but it just happened and it was so awkward. So I didn't take it out of the guide with the known bug list because I'm not sure if it's been taken out. I think it's been. I'm gonna play it safe and like wait until Walking Dead. Another thing, sometimes Red just does get stuck in a locker for the rest of the game and there's nothing you can do about it. Teleporting to a locker with survivor inside them can get you or the survivor stuck. Another form of getting stuck in a locker is when you leave a locker, you are like basically pulled towards the inside of the locker and have to wait for a cooldown to escape from the locker. You cannot leave. You're just like outside of the state in which you are hiding in a locker, but you're like stuck inside the model of the locker and you have to wait for your power to escape.
I mean, at least you're not stuck there forever. Like at least you can get out of it.
Yeah, but you can get stuck in them permanently, as I mentioned earlier sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Another bug is since around steady pulse, breaking a lock has a visual delay. So if you swing at a lock, it would take like half a second to break. It doesn't affect gameplay, but it's just annoying. And for the last, it's not technically a bug, but like with the whole... Yeah, besides that, I don't think he has many bugs that I'm aware of. There was this one that I saw on review stream when someone broke the remnant and Rev got kind of slowed down for a second. I'm not sure what happened there, but I didn't test it. I don't think it's consistent, and it can be avoided easily by just playing the character properly. I'm not sure if it's a bug because you're not intended to be hindered when someone breaks the remnant, but it was just so odd. I don't know what causes that, but I guess it's a bug. I didn't really test it myself. Besides that, I don't think there's anything else.
Well, I mean, you want to talk about it, so let's just move right into text right after that. You had a couple perks you want to talk about. You had a couple techniques you want to talk about. Tell me about them. Okay,
so Dredge doesn't have techs, as in using the mechanics of the game that aren't like coded properly to gain an advantage. Like Hacktech, for example, on Wesker and stuff. But like by definition, technique is special way of using something. So there's like 5 I have prepared for today. The first one is something that I think revived this killer for me when I was going through a bit of burnout. I call it peeking. So imagine you're in a tile and you're playing against a survivor. They're in a lunge range and you have a standoff, like you're on the one side of the pallet, they're on the other side, and you have a remnant that if you teleport to it, you would realistically hit them if they stay at the same spot. Well, if you slightly go into the hitbox to bait the pallet drop, but teleport as soon as you either notice that the animation is starting, or predict it if you're like ultra great Sigma and stuff. Yeah, if you just like predict the input they're going to do, like if they just drop it as soon as you're teleporting, you can just get a free hit. It pretty much makes every single like filler tile a guaranteed hit, which is really fun. And you don't really see a lot of dredges do that. They mostly just like wait for the first input or do a gamble without any threat of bait. And basically, if you utilize this, you will see that you're winning out more of your chases and matches. Next up, I would like to mention what I call temporary remnants. Temporary remnants are remnants because, fun fact, you don't have to use your remnant when you place it down, you can let go. So when you place down a remnant, it puts pressure on the survivor to not get hit by you and you when you teleport to the remnant. So you can lead them in directions that they wouldn't usually run. If a survivor is going wide to set up like the direction they're going to loop in, you can use one remnant to bait them to, if you use the remnant in a way that locks them out of using the resource, like they have to like just make sure that you they're just stuck on like a solid piece of collision with no resource. Like temporary remnants will be your tool to misposition survivors and lead them away from stronger tiles. I'm not really good at verbally explaining, so there's some clips I can send you of that, because I have some clips in my guide that I still have on my hard drive, so they're pretty much better examples.
All right. Yeah, you're like herding a little sheep.
Yeah, it's just herding someone away from a resource. It's like basically leaving them with no decision but to successfully mind game you. And if you're good, you will not get mind gamed. Another one I would like to mention is trap remnants. Trap remnants are basically remnants that you can, as the title suggests, you can use them as traps. So you have a survivor on a hook. You go around the wall, you place down a remnant, so it's not in line of sight. Whenever you get an unhook, you teleport back to the remnant and claim your free hit or tunnel. And see, perk number 1 that comes to play with this deck. Make your choice. If you just place down the remnant and go away outside of range and just wait for the unhook, you can just get a free trade from the exposed. Fun fact, you can do that on generators. Dragon's Grip. If someone's really trying to push out a generator, you can punish them for that with trap remnants. So basically, if you have either of those 2 perks, just set up a remnant behind collision so they can see it and claim your free value from the exposed. Another thing I'd like to mention is scanning. Essentially, whenever you teleport to a remnant within 60 meters, you get a clear instinct of all survivors. So if you just teleport to a remnant while you have, for example, a down survivor, you can just check if anyone's searching. And the last thing that I believe is the skill expression of Dredge, like the skill ceiling, melee teleports, which are accurate teleports on a location of a survivor to a locker. So if you're running a survivor and they run next to a locker, if you're outside of line of sight, you can teleport to the locker to basically surprise them, because they cannot see what you're doing. So like if you're behind the wall, like for example, if you're looping shack, if they're cutting a corner and they don't wait to see if you're going around them, you can teleport to that locker that's near the doorway of shack to basically like straight up exit the locker, like you're just like going inside of their body and they have no way to dodge that attack. Like I believe that melee teleports are just like peak mind gaming and peak of the skill ceiling of the Dredge, because like if you are able to just hide and make them like run into a locker and then you teleport out of it and you get a free hit, that's just so much satisfaction. Like I think that's the most satisfying thing you can do out of this character, especially since a lot of people tell you to not use your teleport to lockers at all in chase. Please don't listen to them. In Nightfall it's even more free, but in daytime it's so satisfying to do. Just remember to be outside of line of sight and you should get value out of that if you predict where they are exactly, if you can just pinpoint them exactly. That's I think the most important text on Dredge in terms of like special use of power, not like bug way text, because there's none, I would say.
And while we're talking about perks that, specifically do something for the killer, how about on the opposite end of things for Survivor? Like, is there, like, say, I'm playing Survivor and I want to counter the Dredge. I don't like the Dredge, whatever. What is, like, the number one perk that you would say would be brought for, like, how to counter the Dredge?
Basically, anything that allows you to pre-run, I would say. And if anything comes to the game that's on the level of old mate for this, that makes Remnant completely useless, that would be his worst perk. So think life, sprint burst, like the best type of counterplay to Dredge is to just stay out of range in which they can use Remnant. So if you can just pre-run for free, and if you stack like 4 vigils on top of that, you can just like completely make the killer useless on your first chase or like at the beginning of the chase. Like you will waste so much of their time. So I would say like basically like any other M1 killer, exhaustion is your main enemy. That's why language is so good.
I can also say that I enjoy language, so I get it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just while we're talking about playing Survivor against your killer anyway, I don't know if you're a big Survivor player at all, but do you play Survivor?
I play around 80-20. Mostly when there's challenges for Survivor that I want to complete.
Okay, good enough.
But recently I've been kinda enjoying Survivor, but I mostly play solo queue, so I'm enjoying it as much as I can.
So I just want to ask, when you play Survivor against your main, the Dredge, do you enjoy playing against them as much, and why or why not?
Oh, I fucking adore it. Like especially that this character speed rate is really low. If I see a Dredge, I'll just like go, like I may even throw the game, just talk and see what they're doing to maybe pick up some info that I don't know. Even I don't think it's really likely, but still, if I can just see how Dredge performs in pubs, I love it. And the alternative is that I will completely decimate them by just having a third eye and knowing what they will do. But I do my best to like, if the killer is willing to like ask for feedback, or like I ask, hey, I kind of know this character who will only help you out. They're down. I like make sure to like give them some tips to maybe make their life a bit easier. But like, I really dislike going against dredges that don't use their remnant like at all, because it's so much wasted potential. Oh, you could get that down here. Oh, you would win this game, but if you did that, like it's like a blessing and a curse. Because like if they do well, it's like really satisfying to see a wild dredgeling doing great, and if they don't use their power, it's really sad. And I just do my best to make sure that people are educated to do the best they can. And if they don't know what to do, I just try to help.
And I would say that's pretty frustrating for you as a Dredge main playing against the Dredge. But in general, from a Survivor point of view, what do you think the most frustrating part about playing against the Dredge is for survivors? Not you specifically, but in general, like average Timmy, I'm gonna fight the Dredge survivor.
I would say it can feel a bit hopeless if the Dredge is good at using the remnant. It essentially feels like you cannot do anything. But seeing a lot of killers have this element, I personally believe that there are situations in which the killer deserves to have a moment in which you can do nothing. So it's frustrating, but unfortunately, I think that's a necessary evil, because they're just kind of better at the game. I'm sorry to tell you. Another thing that actually is an issue, I would say, though, is Nightfall is really inaccessible. It's really overwhelming for some people. As someone with ADHD, if I get onto a landing and I play Dredge, I have no reason to not play the game on mute or leave the game. On other killers, I just need to turn down my volume and apply a filter. But I am really shocked that I can play this killer with Nightfall and the audio. But like, if I was forced to play on Toba, I would puke. I feel for anyone who needs to DC or give up against this killer. It's not fun to be overwhelmed, trust me.
And I would say that's even like kind of a misconception about Dredge in general. I'm gonna ask like what some common misconceptions are, but the main thing I want to like just put out there first is that Dredge players know that there's an accessibility nightmare with Nightfall. Like it's not like a bad thing, like that they're just doing to be evil, I promise.
Yeah, we aren't like evil Dredge main. We hate people who are overwhelmed. Like, we just like the character, man. Like, we don't hate you. It's just like on behavior to fix it.
Yeah, I'm trying to do like a video on that type of thing for every killer. Like, what could we change? Coming out whenever.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some like misconceptions about the Dredge that you think people should know? Like, if you had one thing you could tell everyone, what would you tell them about the Dredge? What do you wish people understood? And like, if they have a common grievance to something that has like obvious counterplay, what would you tell them?
This question is complicated, because is it like only counterplay, or is it like in general like
anything?
I have two things. I know that by definition, objectively, if you look at the power, you are map dependent. But it doesn't really... People are blowing out of the proportion how much it affects you. Like, you are still a 4.6 killer. If you see someone somewhere and you don't have a locker there's this magical key on your keyboard that says W that you can use to walk towards them. Like, I get that it's difficult to play on a map that's like bad with lock response, but like you still have like one more power to use. Like, you still have an anti-loop. There's killers that have only anti-loop and do great. Your anti-loop is not insane, but like you still have a power. Sadako, if you use TVs, is really hard to manage. I would say the complaints are valid, and I hope they do something about the lockers, but like it's not as rough as people make you say. And even with like bad locker maps, you're still like a C-tier killer at like worst. Like Shelter Woods, his worst map, you know that like if you go outside of main building, the tiles on Shelter Woods are pretty shit. Like it's just filler tiles and like 2 jungle gyms and shack. Which, fun fact, Dredge can manage shack pretty well if you know your remnant spots. So I would say like map dependency isn't as much as people make it out to be. In terms of counterplay, people could be mad about running out of locks. Well, there's like a specific system to how locker priority works. Essentially, the dredge teleports to first. Like if there's 2 lockers next to each other, or like several lockers next to each other that are connected in code, the dredge will teleport to the locker that has a survivor in it, then to a locked locker, and then to an open locker with no lock. If you lock only one locker that is connected by code, if a locker is next to each other in a straight line, they're connected mostly. So if you just lock one of them, you will have a lock to use earlier. So you get 2 locks out of 2 lockers instead of getting 1 lock out of 2 lockers. So in terms of counterplay, I think it's that, because I see a lot of people lock both of the lockers in pubs, and it's such an advantage to me. I don't want to have this advantage. So I would say that.
Then you just teleport over and you smack the other one open, and then you have 2 free lockers.
Yep, it's just so bad.
But you just brought up Shelter Woods as like his worst map. So on the topic of maps, what is your favorite map? And we just heard your least favorite, but are those the same as your killer's best and worst maps? Like, is Shelter Woods your least favorite despite it being your worst, or is it something else?
So this will be a surprise to a lot of people. I don't think Midwich is his best map. I do understand it's really strong. I think it's like a top 5 map, but I think that the Dredge's best map, if you know what you're doing, is the game. And I know there's like barely any lockers like on the top floor, but you realistically only need the 2 that are near the gates. The tiles upstairs are really shit. Again, similarly with Forgotten Ruins, if you just stay on the bottom floor, which has a lot of lockers, you will do fine. And if they go upstairs, you win a chase. The only dangerous tiles on that map are the ones near the bathroom. That's like 2 god pallets near basement, and like the high one with like the boxes and stuff, like they typically spawn near the exit gates. I think you know what I mean. I hope so. Like the very long and tall ones. These are like the only 2 tiles that are realistically dangerous to you. Everything else is just a breeze. Like it's so easy to zone people on this map.
I think the game is a really weak map once all the pallets are gone.
Mm-hmm. And you basically ignore stuns. You play around them dropping, not stunning. So if you just break the pallets they drop after you get a hit, you are going to have a great time. For my favorite, I think it's still the game, but I've been enjoying Lambkin Lane and Ormond Lake Mine a lot. I think these 3 maps are like his top 3. Ormond Lake Mine is just so nice to look at, and it's so fluid to play. And Lambkin Lane is Lambkin Lane. It may be a bit of an evil thing of a killer main like me to do, but like I enjoy playing on a map that is killer-sided. Wow. No, like I don't play to, like I don't think that like, oh, I only enjoy the game when I'm winning, but like
it's nice to win sometimes.
It's cozy, yeah. It's nice to win. The Freddy Fazbear's Pizza is also like pretty nice, especially like recently. Like the maps say like add recently, maybe say for Dead Suns, because Dead Suns, even though if it has like good lockers, you still have to deal with Forsaken Boneyard tiles, which are big and have a weird hitbox to run around. So even if you like spill glitter on shit, it's still shit. So yeah, like I thought of that map, they're doing really well with maps in terms of like dredgeability. His worst maps are by far Eyrie of Crows, Badam, Rotten Fields, and Shelter, because you get no lockers, and Eyrie has terrible tiles. Badam has basement of main. Rotten Fields isn't as bad, but I don't like cold wind maps because they're really bright and hurt my eyes. And Shelter is the most infamous map in the game, I would say. I would say Shelter is at the current state is by far the worst designed map in the game because both sides hate it. Outside of main, you have nothing to play as survivor. It's big. The main is miserable to play as killer. It's just so bad. Another thing I could mention too. The golden rule for maps for Dredge is that they have lockers in every single quarter of the map and some lockers in the middle. And if you do that a bit too much, it can still be bad for you. Case in point, Greenville Square. If you have too many lockers that are overlaying each other, let's say you are chasing a survivor in Nightfall and you don't have to melee teleport, you can just like teleport and just get a free hit. Hey, look, a survivor running in a straight line. Let me teleport to them because they're near a locker. Oh, I'm accidentally in the fucking basement. Across the map. Yeah, cool, thank you. I love stacked lockers, it's so fun. I think that's like really odd how even if you have too much lockers, it still can be a bad map for you.
And speaking of appearing out of lockers, do you enjoy the killer more for the playstyle or the lore, or is it a little bit of A, a little bit of B? I know you wanted to bring it up, so I'm bringing it up.
So, as much as I love the playstyle, the thing that like keeps me so attached to this character is the lore. And it has so much layers to it that are just so interesting. So, first off, a basic synopsis. Otto Stamper, the mentor of the Doctor, Herman Carter, is a higher up, allegedly, in the Black Vale, and creates a subsidiary cult called the Fold and brings some people to the separated island in the US. And basically, he manipulates them to basically never ever think a negative thought, always be happy. And the island is presumably haunted, but there's a lot of implications that it's the doing of Otto. There are people going missing and dying around the island, and he basically creates this quote-unquote cognito hazard called the Druani, which feeds off their negative emotions. So people aren't allowed to sleep, to not have nightmares. People have to smile all the time and overall be happy. And one day they have a ceremonial sacrifice of a journalist that came to the island to reveal the secrets of the cult. And basically when he kills this journalist, he says that there's imposters among us and they need to...
Among us?
They need to get rid of them to save the community. So basically, everyone just panics and starts killing each other, and everything goes dark. It was on a beach, so like one of the cosmetics, by the way, has like a reference to someone killing someone with a shell of a crab, which I find really gruesome. Yeah, so everything goes dark, and out of the massive depression, tragedy, and negative thoughts, egregor called the Dredge or the Druani. An egregor is a manifestation of mass negative emotions. One of the writings that explain what an egregor is an ancient Hebrew Book of Enoch, but I think it's not really accurate in the Book of Enoch. In general, it's just like a creature made of thought that can either be independent and manifest from these thoughts or be created by these thoughts. And this story is directly inspired not only by the concept of an egregor, which the Dredge is, or presumably is, because I personally believe in a theory that it's kind of an original one or an ancient, which, if you didn't know, is the species that in the game's lore the entity belongs under. I think it's a weak ancient one, but like if you look at it without theories, it's like an egregor. And this story is also inspired by the People's Temple in Jonestown, which is a bit of a heavy topic, so I'll try my best to censor myself. Basically, Jim Jones caused the biggest mass death event in American history, like one of the biggest, and basically the occurring with the journalist in the lore is inspired by this one governor that came to the island, which died there and which caused the mass death event there. As someone who is really interested in like true crime topics, I just find it so fascinating how a story like that can be adapted in such a interesting way. And another layer to add on top of the Dredge's lore is the add-ons, which I find that aren't really brought up in the discussion because they have some really gruesome stuff like in them. Like, for example, you have the boat keys, which are hidden away to prevent people from leaving the island. You have Broken Doll, which basically confirms that in the Fold there were children who presumably may have died in the event, which I find really disturbing to think about. The Destroyed Pillow is basically where I took the part where people weren't allowed to sleep. I think it's also in the main lore, but like it's just interesting how like they physically destroyed the pillows to not let people sleep. And the Worry Stone, I think is also like really sad because like people were only allowed to think positive thoughts. So if something negative happened, they rubbed a stone in their pocket to like get the negative thoughts into that stone. Unfortunately, in the add-ons, there's a lot of Hadi add-ons, which I don't think really fit. I wish they were more like of the garden specific add-ons, but like it's fine. It doesn't really affect me. It doesn't really affect the story too much, but like it's just such a fascinating story that I think is really underrated in the eyes of the community. Some people like us like say that it's too subtle or isn't subtle, like too extremes, but like cults aren't really like. Cults are like hard to detect. It's widely known what cults do to people, but like from the outside they don't look dangerous to people who are going to get indoctrinated to a cult. So it's just so interesting. I just really enjoy the story for what it is. Even though it's not like the best in writing, it's my favorite lore in Dead by Daylight. I really enjoy it.
And so that's a big part of what makes you a fan of the Dredge. But when you were playing as the Dredge, how often do you like really run into people that are also, you know, similar to you, like fans of the Dredge, or even people that really dislike the Dredge? Because we mentioned it earlier with the whole like accessibility thing that, you know, people are they're gonna DC, they're gonna whatever, because they have issues with the Dredge's Nightfall. And understandable, that's an accessibility problem that needs to be fixed. Yeah. So how often do you run into people that are really big fans, and how often do you run into people that are like really big Dredge antis? And just in general, how do you feel the community feels about the Dredge in general?
So in terms of in-game, I personally don't see a lot of like either. I think people are just kind of in-game specifically, on Frankfurt servers specifically, people are kind of indifferent, I think, to this character. There's no like, oh, I despise the Dredge, Timmy hater 29, like there's no person like that, or like, oh my god, Dredge, step on, okay, I'm not gonna go into that, but like there's no like this kind of person on my specific game area. But however, before the Gonus Revenge came in, I saw way more theses than usual. Like people were giving up en masse in the last weeks of like the give up prevention not being a thing, which is quite unusual because people rarely gave up or DC'd against my killer. And I don't personally think that was affected by accessibility. I think people were just using the last bits of cheese that they had for the last weeks of this not being a thing, even though it was like turned off a few days later, but we don't go into that. Like in game, I don't think there's too much thoughts about Dredge, like not many people care. I had this one cool interaction though where someone recognized me for my guide because they were learning the character from my guide, because I found like a Dredge player in pubs, but that's pretty much the only thing that I had about Dredge. Oh, P100 Dredge but plays so bad because I lost one game counts. Then okay. Outside of the game, though, I feel like, personally, I think discussions about Dredge feel a bit more, like, emotional, I guess. Like, I kind of sometimes fell victim to that, too, which I acknowledge, and I'm doing my best to, like, not be emotional when discussing balance of fucking Dead by Daylight out of all the games, but, like, this character is really controversial in this community, I feel, in terms of, like, gameplay, because, I don't know, people sometimes just don't want to acknowledge some things. And I'm not saying that like, oh, my opinion is the greatest, and if someone doesn't listen to me, they're stupid. No, I just think some people are a bit too stubborn about this character in terms of where their opinion is. I don't expect people to play like a character full time to understand them in depth, but like if you played like 3 games of the Dredge and then tell me this character is D tier, I don't think I agree. I can see the argument why they're C tier, not in D tier. So yeah, I feel like Dredge is probably like, before Kaneki came out, I wouldn't say it's Cool Merchant level, but like this killer is kind of controversial in community in my eyes. Maybe I just see these discussions a lot because I play Dredge, but I feel like Dredge is just not, I wouldn't say understood, but like Dredge is just like an enigma in the community, I would say.
Which kind of fits with him as a character too.
Whoa!
Whoa. So how strong do you think he is? Because you just brought up like having arguments about it, but about where would you put him?
So I actually have a tier list. I prepared a tier list earlier. This implies 9.1.0 up to blue add-ons included against solid survivors, implying that what we know that stays in the next patch, like from the AMA and from the contacts, like the best possible scenario of like what 9.1.0, I believe that Dredge is a mid-low B tier killer above Wraith and below Nemesis. Again, I'm not like an ultra competitive player. I play to win, but I am sometimes silly. I can see an argument why it could be C tier. I will never understand how someone can put this killer in D tier, even though it's not as consistent as other characters. He has mobility. He has an anti-loop power that is debatably also inconsistent, but I feel like if you think a bit more hours in this character, it is consistent. I just don't see an argument why this character would be really, really low tier. I at the lowest, I would personally put him like above Hag in this current scenario, because I see scenarios where Trickster could be better, like on maps with bad lockers, but it's just some people, I think they just, I'm not forcing people to play Dredge to understand it fully, but I feel like as someone who plays this character full time, I think I understand them a bit better, and I think they are in this spot. Again, I don't play too much Wraith. I play Nemesis on and off because his technical is fun. That's my opinion.
And while we're talking about opinions, let me go into one of the opinionated parts of playing a killer at all. The cosmetic section.
Ooh.
How do you feel about the Dredge's cosmetic options? Do you think he has enough? Do you think he needs more? Do you have a idea for a very specific Dredge skin you would like to have made if you had full control over having behavior make what you want? And what is your favorite cosmetic set?
So in terms of like skins, my favorite skin is Worse Hell, which is the Greek legend skin. I think it's really clean. It's kind of vanilla even because it looks kind of similar to default, but isn't the same. Yeah, I think it's like really clean. I really like how it looks. And some people complain that the weapon is wobbly, even though wiggly, even if it's like metal. But we are playing a really strong in lore character. I think they can bend metal or at least make it liquid, quote unquote. Yeah, I just really like it. If I was going to choose like my least like skin, I fucking hate Eddie because I just don't think it fits, even though I can acknowledge it's a good designed outfit, but I don't like how it looks on Dredge specifically.
So you're saying it's your opinion?
Yes! Wow, I have those.
That's crazy.
In terms of how many skins Dredge gets a reasonable amount of skins.
Didn't he just get 4 in this rift? I mean, they're the same skin as recolors, so like...
You got the fungi skin, that's an accessibility issue for some people.
Yep.
Which I completely understand. That's why I don't play it on videos or on stream to respect that. And I don't allow outfit requests of that skin. I only play it offline, but like, it's pretty cool. It's really clean for gameplay because the stuff is really small. Also, I don't really understand the complaints about like, oh, this cosmetic has a big POV on this specifically. I don't think any skin like completely doesn't show you what you need to see, which is the middle of the screen.
Isn't the crab dredge like half your screen?
I think crab dredge isn't the worst offender. I think it's toy dredge. And even if you still see, like on both of these skins, you see the middle of your screen with both of them. So you see all you need to see. He also is getting like the traditional bedsheet ghost style skin, which I like, but I personally would like the house skin that was also in the vote. Do you remember that one? That green one? I really like that one. Hey, it was a 50-50. I don't care which one we get. Like both of them look really cool. And I kind of dig the design of the bedsheet dredge. So, hey, I win anyway. In terms of my most wanted concept of a skin, Singularity kind of stole it from me, but I saw this one concept by Mr. Shwu, which is exactly the type of skin aesthetic-wise what I want for Dredge. It's the Spectre of Surveillance, which is a cybernetic or /robotic /electronic type Dredge skin with like mechanics and shit. As you can tell by my entire branding, I love GLaDOS Portal. I like robot stuff. I like robots. I am really into this kind of aesthetic, and if I got something on Dredge like that, I would never take it off.
Now, speaking of taking off, I would say that windstreaking is akin to that, because, you know, taking off in a plane, flying to great heights.
Yeah.
How do you feel about wind streaks on the Dredge? Do you enjoy doing them? Have you ever done one? And if you are a fan, just why? And do you really think that Dredge has any like things it does better than anyone else that makes it good at wind streaking? I
did attempt wind streaks before. My personal best is low 14, which I'm not really proud of, but hey, at least I tried. I would say like Dredge is not consistent enough on every single map to be optimal for wind streaks. Again, as I said earlier, while the map aspect of this character is blown out of proportion, in my opinion, by the community, it still does affect how well you can perform. And basically, the highest win streak out there is done with an endgame build, which says a lot how much you have to set up to win streaks consistently. I think it's like 200. I think it's like not really interesting in this regard. I don't win streaks by skill. I win streaks because I brought endgame and killed everyone after 5 gens popped. And if I run for slowdown, I essentially gamble if my map is bad or good. And I just don't find that interesting. However, I did enjoy my time with streaking. Even though they didn't go far, I think I built up a lot of mental resilience to do so. Because as Momo, I think, said, if we got like ultra strong survivors every game, like Momo streak would go up to like 50, I think. I think he said something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, he did say that to me.
It's essentially gambling on you getting Timmy24 on Xbox 360, going after a rough day in middle school, going to play his favorite game, Debbie Daylight, and faces a horceror on Dredge who's playing like they have their entire family and their Chick-fil-A gift card at gunpoint, which is like, again, if there was a way to make win streaks actually not dependent on you facing bad players, I would be more into that. I think I'm gonna try it when the mid-chapter drops, but I feel like Dredge is just not consistent enough, and especially with the current healing meta, I just don't think it's realistic to replicate the success of, I don't know how to say their name, but I think it's a Japanese player. The highest win streak Dredge win streak was 205. As I said, it's not like realistic to replicate the success of Utamaru with 205 wins with the current state of the game.
Yeah, because they're just a beast on Dredge. I assume there was something at the time that like was making it easier to win streak.
I would say healing. I would say healing is by far the thing that hurts Dredge the most at the moment. And vigil exhaustion.
Oh yeah, you're right. Okay, but speaking of the guy you just brought up, Timmy24, what if he wants to learn the dredge? What are you telling this guy? Just like extreme basic stuff. I know that you have a full guide. I will direct people to that. I would say go check out the full guide, but basic stuff, not the 10-page dissertation.
Okay. So for all the dredgelings out there, my most base level tips I can give you. First, pay attention to your surroundings. If you can see like what tile your survivor is leading you towards and what is around the tile, try to pick the worst possible scenario for that survivor. And if you can't get a hit on this specific tile, make sure to at least attempt to make them face the way of that worst possible scenario if they leave the tile. So like just basically pay attention to your surroundings and make sure that at best you get a hit and at worst they go to a worst tile. Number 2, try some lethal and barbecue to train your game sense, because the Dredge is a hybrid killer. He's both micro and macro, which having a good macro sense will really help you. So I would recommend running some aura at the start. Don't hesitate too long with your inputs. I see a lot of Dredge players to either place their remnant too late, or when the survivor leaves the tile, they take so long to let go of it. And with lockers, they take way too long to get out of them. If you finish teleporting, survivors get an audio cue that you're in that locker specifically. They get a sound. And if you instantly leave a locker, they get no time to react. They have to like watch this really subtle animation of the doors to know you're teleporting to them. So just over time, try to be a little faster with what you do and stay patient at the same time, because inputting too quickly, in terms of like playing with Remnant, is going to cost you chases. For the final 2 tips, make sure to flick your camera to the position in which you want your camera to be when you teleport to it, because as I said earlier, your camera is copying, like the Remnant is copying your camera position too. So place it at the spot you want to be looking at when you teleport to it, so you don't get confused by the teleport. And finally, please, for the love of God, break the locks. You're losing out on so much time being saved if you don't break your locks. Please, if you're not like busy and it's not urgent to do something else right now, please, for the love of God, break the lock. I think that's all.
Okay, break the locks, use your power, learn your power. I know it's always basic advice, but that's the whole point of the sections. Like, some people, they don't use their power. Like, I ran into this like yesterday, not with the dredge, but like with a pig. It's like she used her power to walk around and she lost a lot of loops. And it's like, you can use the ambush or like half of these, and then when she just didn't, it's like okay. But you gotta fail to succeed. Like, you have to know your limits and what you can do, and then where you can use your shit. That's
why you shouldn't sweat it when you play killer for the first time. If you lose games, don't care, just learn the power. Play for chase.
So we touched on the accessibility thing a little bit earlier, just as like it's like, vaguely something that is necessary to be fixed at some point in time. But say you have full executive control over the situation. Is there anything about Dredge you would change? That can mean literally anything, like accessibility, just the kit, the balance, the vibe, skins, whatever. Is there anything problematic you would just like fix? What are you changing?
As I said earlier, my number 1 priority is to make this killer more accessible, because even if the killer is meant to stay in the state it is, there's no reason for the accessibility to be so shit. Number 1 change that I would do, like if I got into the behavior studios and they didn't watch as I type on their computer, make Nightfall better for people. My number 2 priority change, please, for the love of God, make him 4.0 while holding the gloaming, because like I'm not saying that holding W is a bad thing, that Dredge shouldn't have counterplay, but like, if you're slow under the Survivor while playing the Mind Game Killer, I'm rubbing my virtuosion right now, but there might be some mind games you're missing out by being slower than your target. So if they made Dredge Survivor speed while he's holding the power, that would encourage so much more interaction in my opinion. Hold W would still be viable if you're shot at the killer, but if you're not shot at the killer, then people would have to focus more on poking your brain a bit, finding your like holes in your cycling movement, try to maybe mind game you and get out of the tile, actually playing the game, not like playing a point-and-click adventure of W and Shift. And number 3, since we're touching on the 3 fundamentals of the character being Nightfall, Remnant, and Teleports, make lockers a killer item, please. If you're not going to go around every single map and rework them to have more lockers, even though you're doing a great job recently with new maps to basically have them be dredgeable, make them a killer item, so maps that cannot be reworked like high in the priority list, Swamp, they at least can get some use out of dredge players. Dredge players can get some use out of them by just having a killer item that is straight up just a locker. That, or let us teleport to chests if you have enough time to give enough new animation and stuff. That would be cool too.
And we could say that these are things that, you know, you'd update about the killer. But with updates that the Dredge has received, let's start with direct updates. So that's going to be stuff to the killer itself, buffs, nerfs, etc. Would you say that all of them have been fair? Would you say they've been unfair? I know that we got a pretty solid buff in the same patch with the Dredge and the Nemesis, but overall, over Dredge's entire lifespan, do you think that every change that has happened to the Dredge specifically has been justified?
Dredge has had 2 balanced patches. The whole 2 balanced patches. One was 6.0.2, which was a bug fix for his release patch, which changed the visibility ranges on Nightfall. And the big one, 8.2.0, which actually made him playable. So I cannot really complain. Thumbs up. Thank you for making my killer actually solid. It's like, I'm glad that they didn't do something insane, but they didn't do anything about his add-ons, and there's still some things they need to touch up upon to make the killer like consistent. As I said in the recommended changes earlier, I probably have some more too, but like that's like the basic that I need. If you do only these 3 things, you can leave this killer forever.
And the other half of things just around the Dredge rather than for the Dredge specifically. So meta, you know, things that are not the killer specific, but things that still affect the killer. So like new maps, new perks, reworks to your power, etc. Is there anything that has just kind of like been a big change to the Dredge? Do you feel like the Dredge has been left behind in recent years with how the game has been changing? Like earlier you mentioned the Ormond Lake mine being as a positive, so that could be something to go off of, but just in general, how do you feel the game has been because of things that have changed around it rather than to it?
So, in terms of updates around Dredge, first notable mention I would like to make. Old Mate for this made this killer unplayable in terms of Remnant. Fortunately, it was, I think, before the buff to his base kit, so it didn't change much, but it just made stuff worse for everyone. The healing buffs are currently making his macro really struggle. Essentially, if you don't play Leverage and Gift of Pain, there's no way to force him to stay injured for longer than 5 seconds. Because to optimize Nightfall game, you should have at least 2 survivors outside of the healthy state at all times. Maps, overall, as I said earlier, I think the only bad map we got recently is Dead Suns. Even Fallen Refuge is a pretty solid map for him because the lockers are fine, loops aren't too insane. Overall, I think it's a mixed bag because problematic perks come and go, but I would say there's stuff that's positive, but there's some ironing out that has to be done because, as I said, healing buffs are probably the most egregious part about playing Dredge at the moment. That and Vigil.
And with all these changes that happened to Dead by Daylight as a whole, Dead by Daylight as a game has been going on for over 9 years now. We just ended our 9th anniversary. Pretty nice. I got like 2,000 cakes on my elf, and I don't really see an end in sight personally. But for you and, you know, everything that DBD's been doing and how they've been improving as a company, as a game, as a community, etc., how long do you think Dead by Daylight is going to last?
I'm closing Dead by Daylight tomorrow. I'm turning off the servers, actually. I'm sorry to say that. No, but being for real, I feel like Dead by Daylight is going to last until the code falls apart and they need to rework the game completely but decide not to, because the suits are pulling on their neck, stopping them from getting long-term investments. I think that the game would need a major fumble to die. I mean, recently there's been a thing about behavior making like really tone-deaf changes a lot, even though they like consistently, I think that behavior is doing a great job of taking care of the game, but there's just so many things that just confuse me. Like the Knight standard changes that they proposed, Twins rework first iteration, the thing they're doing with Clown, and they're apparently not walking back fully. How are you so good but so bad at the same time? Like, respectfully, they would need to like make a major fuck up to kill this game. At this point, I think it's too late to make an ASIM that's going to compete with Dead by Daylight. I know it's silly to bring it up, but Forsaken, out of all the games, is unique because it's free and it's on a platform mostly filled with children who can't play Dead by Daylight. So that kind of explains why its play count is kind of close to DBD on all platforms, even though I think the game has a bunch of issues, like limiting people from choosing to play killer, like other Roblox ASIMs. I think it does some things better than DBD for the casual audience that I think they could kind of steal. But again, I don't think that like if you're gaming for the same audience that plays Dead by Daylight at the moment, it's impossible to compete with them. I think they had the whole market already they gotten in terms of like horror themed asymmetrical games. If you want to make an ASIM, make a completely different type of experience. That or be SCP Secret Laboratory, who's somehow also a horror themed game that also is still alive, apparently. Okay. Yeah, I just think like the game is going to die only when the devs decide to kill it. There is no way this game dies like naturally, because I think Behavior have been doing a good job with reacting to game killing potential shit. Like, for example, Original Region or PTB Reward Wins or Circle of Healing. Yeah.
I mained Plague during Circle of Healing. That's how you know it was bad.
Yep.
It was crazy.
Plague is fun though.
Yeah, it's just like not really what I enjoyed too much. It was just like I hated boons more.
Yeah.
And with that being the thing that would finish off Behavior and Dead by Daylight, I do want to ask my very last question here. What would make you drop the dredge completely? What would be the final nail in the coffin? What would be the straw that broke the camel's back? What would make you quit dredge and never look back?
Freddy 1.0 to Freddy 2.0 style rework. I'm talking launch Freddy to forever Freddy. If they made a completely different character, that would be the death of me.
And let's just say like they did something along the lines of like the 2.0 Freddy to the 3.0 Freddy, which is what we have now. Like, would that be good? Because that's like I would say that's a flat net positive change to Freddy.
I personally think that the first two iterations of Freddy didn't really have identity to do like bad things too. However, I hear that people really enjoyed original Freddy and they dropped him after 2.0 Freddy came out. So I don't really know how to make an example of like making a completely different killer, because we don't know what's going to happen to merchants. So I can't really use that as an example. But like if they made a completely different killer in the slot of my character, I would drop them.
Okay.
With Freddy, it's like they took the outlines of 2.0 Freddy and just gave him identity that he didn't have before. I don't know. Like, if Remnant was made something completely different, I would give up and play Vecna or Unknown, or drop DBD completely and just play fighting. Maybe if GLaDOS came to the game and scratched the same itch, I would return, but if Dredge retains its identity, I would just probably secondary her, even though I literally love this character to death and she's my wife. Like, Dredge just feels very connected to me because it just feels like it was made for me. It's like my ideal power for a character. It's my baby, you know?
Yeah. Well, cool. I want to say thank you for giving me your time today. Tonight for you, I think, with time zones and how they work.
It's 10 p.m., yeah.
Now this little last section, I just let people talk about, you know, anything they might have been working on, anything they want to share, anything upcoming, if you have any little teasers you want to give out. And yeah, time is yours. Feel free to just drop all your links and go for it.
So you can find me on YouTube under KMD, or if you're using the whole at name thing on YouTube, it's at KMD EEZ, so KMDs. Peak humor, I know. On Twitch, I am it's KMD, ITZ KMD. On Twitter, I am KMD on YT. And also, I make music. I'm releasing an EP before this year ends, I hope. It's KMD, but you like spell it out like you say it. So like KAYEMDEE. It's on Soundcloud. There's gonna be probably also on streaming. I'm gonna probably announce that on my Twitter. And my Twitter for my music page is KMD Music, like the same spelling, just with music added to it. What else? I wrote the most extensive guide to the dredge that was verified by Oddsdarva. You can find it either pinned on my Twitter or on Oddsdarva's FAQ page. On YouTube, I'm considering, not 100% sure of it, but I'm considering making an audio version of my guide that's as not outdatable as possible, but I'm not sure about that. I mostly do discussion content and builds and gameplay and highlights on my YouTube. So if you're interested in that, then go for it. And I have an interview with Alize from Hell to talk about how Dredge and artists are similar yet different to each other, and what can be done to make both of these killers better. Because I believe they share a similar archetype of characters with like close range, place thing at loop and play the loop around it type character. So I just want to like see what makes them similar, what makes them different, and what can be done to make both of them different. I think it should be out either after or before this drops on YouTube. I don't know how long it takes to upload this to YouTube. I'm gonna be so honest. So if it's not out, then it's gonna be out after. If it's out, then enjoy. And again, thank you so much for horceror for having me here. I would like to thank everyone who thought to recommend me, because I heard some people recommended me to you, which I'm really thankful for. I love my friends. Thank you for everyone for like following me and horceror and allowing me to take the stage to talk about my favorite thing in horror at the moment. It was a great time.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad to have you. Everyone that watched, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting me. Check out KMD on all these links that are on your screen, and I hope you have a lovely day, morning, noon, evening, night, whatever it may be, and hope to see you in the next one. So I will catch you later, and, bye-bye.
Goodbye, Internet.